Hjärtligt välkomna, både ni som sitter här i lokalen och ni som är med digitalt. Det här är ju ett seminarium som handlar om framtidens vård och vad man kan med hjälp av drönare åstadkomma. Och vi har ju satt en rubrik på det här seminariet som handlar om framtidens vård har vingar. Och det handlar ju om att se vad vi kan göra med teknik för att underlätta vården, för att lasta av trycket ute i vården och för att förenkla. Det handlar ju mycket om snabbhet på plats. Det här seminariet är extra roligt för att vi gör det här tillsammans med Danska Ambassaden. Och välkommen! Och jag är extra stolt och glad att få välkomna Kristina Miskowiak-Bäckvard. Så hjärtligt välkommen upp, Kristina. Det här är ju någonting som är en del i en långsiktig relation med ambassaden. Och vi kommer att få höra lite från Kristina här. Och ni vet ju också som har läst programmet att vi kommer att avsluta idag med, jag höll på att säga, en världspremiär i Sverige. Där vi för första gången kommer att flyga drönare live. Så det får ni alla möjlighet att ta del av och det ser vi fram emot. Lite extra pirrigt faktiskt. Men välkommen Kristina. Och ja, du är ju som sagt nytillträdd ambassadör sedan inte alls lång tid tillbaka. Så välkommen till Sverige får jag säga också.
Tusind tak. Tak så mycket. Jamen det er jo fantastisk, den måde du præsenterer det på også, at vi skal til en verdenspremiere her i Sverige. Og jeg har nyt min lille køretur fra Stockholm og herud til Upplands Väsby, som er første gang, at jeg faktisk arbejder uden for Stockholm i min nye funktion som ambassadør. Så det er en meget spændende dag for mig. Og jeg bemærker jo, hvor stort et land Sverige er, når jeg ser på landkortet. Det er jo et utroligt stort land, og Danmark er så litet et land, når man sammenligner. Men vi har jo selvfølgelig også Grønland og Færøerne som en del af kongeriget Danmark. Og der ved vi nemlig også fra Grønland, hvor vigtigt det er, når man har de store afstande i et land, at man der har mulighed for at sikre transport på olika måder. Jeg har selv været ambassadør i 6-7 uger her, veckor hedder det på svensk, så det er ikke længere. Men jeg har været arbejdet i udenrigstjenesten i snart 25 år, og jeg har været i andre lande også, i Estland, i Frankrike, i Østrig, så det er mange forskellige ting, man oplever som ambassadør. Sikkerhedsdagsorden, forsvar, EU-frågor, og så vigtige spørgsmål for mennesker i dagligdagen, som netop vort spørgsmål. Det er meget nært for mig personligt, fordi jeg kommer fra en familie med mange lækere og hvad hedder det, det hedder sygeplejersker på dansk. Ja, så jeg føler mig meget forbundet med jer. Tak.
Ja, riktigt spännande och jag tror verkligen att vi tillsammans kommer att kunna göra skillnad här i Sverige. Det finns väldigt mycket delar ifrån, dels internationellt men från Danmark också, som har kommit långt i vissa delar av vårdutvecklingen. Har du någon spaning på vård, Sam? Vad är det som händer i vården? Det är mycket roliga grejer och jag vet att det är ett satsnings- och fokusområde för ambassaden.
Ja, men der er jo en trend i øjeblikket, en digitaliseringstrend, hvor man siger, at teknologiske og digitale løsninger, det bliver alt mere integreret del af tjenesterne omkring vården. Og det gælder jo i samtalen med patient og personal. For eksempel, det gælder digitaliseringssystemer inden for journalisering, journalsystem. Og vi er jo færre mennesker i i vården. Der er jo ikke nok hænder, så vi må gøre nogle ting. Vi må være lidt smarte, og vi må tænke på, at fremtiden på mange måder skal have vinger. Pardon the pun. Framtidens vård måste ha vingar. Men det är bekvämt för patienterna, och det gör ju också arbetet lättare för personalet när man är mer digitala och när man använder teknologi i vården. Och droneteknologi, det är ju faktiskt inte längre en framtidsvision. Da jeg gik i børnehave, så havde jeg nok tænkt, at det var sådan lidt crazy dream, at man kunne integrere droner i vården, men ingen havde sagt til mig, at det var muligt. Om nogen skulle have sagt det, ville jeg have tænkt crazy. Men det er jo faktisk realistisk. Det er faktisk noget, som sker allerede. Og jeg nævnte Grønland før, men det er fordi, at vi allerede har nogle drönare flyvninger på Grønland. Og med god erfaring, og vi har også andre steder, også i Syddanmark, kan man sige, omkring Svendborg og omkring Ærø, som jeg tror også, at Nikolaj vil fortælle lidt mere om senere. Så der er den her trend, som jeg tror også er vigtig for os som velfærdsnationer, fordi der er en mulighed for at effektivisere, og der er en mulighed for at sikre hjemlighed i vores vård. Så jeg mener, at det er en utrolig vigtig teknologi af mange olika årsaker.
Ja, intressanta aspekter. En annan del i det, jag tror att det också handlar om att skapa attraktivitet till den här branschen. Att när det kommer in lite nya teknikmöjligheter, när vi börjar jobba på ett annat sätt, så blir det en attraktiv arbetsplats också att vara. Och det är ju en gemensam utmaning vi har, att det är brist på folk. Och då måste vi som aktörer jobba stenhårt med att göra oss mer attraktiva. Och där tror jag att de här tekniska delarna med innovationer, testa nya möjligheter, underlätta, förankra, det kommer att attrahera också en ny kategori av människor som är hjärtligt välkomna.
Jeg har jo været ambassadør, som jeg siger, kun i 6-7 uger, men vores diplomatiske relation imellem Danmark og Sverige er 400 år gammel. Og jeg tænker, at den første ambassadør, som kom, som blev sendt præcis 400 år før nu, præcis 400 år, han havde nok ikke forestillet sig, at hans eftertrædere, Christina, skulle till en presentation och se på drönare i vården. Det är ju fantastiskt.
Ja, det är otroligt fantastiskt. Och det är också fantastiskt i perspektivet att Falck har ju funnits på marknaden sedan väldigt länge, sedan början av 1900-talet. Så vi har ju funnits och har en hel del erfarenheter med oss också globalt, och vi kommer tillbaka till det. Tack så mycket, Kristina. Men det är ju också så att Falck finns ju, som sagt, det är ett globalt bolag, och vi jobbar ju med mobilvård, vi jobbar med räddningstjänster och vi jobbar med olika hälsorelaterade tjänster. Och det här har vi gjort ganska länge, och det finns synergier att dra i den här teknikutvecklingen som vi nu ser framför oss. Och det är ju inte bara det att det finns möjligheter med tekniken, utan det är också ett måste, för vi måste effektivisera vården. Den vårdsituation vi ser framför oss nu de kommande åren, den kommer att bli ohållbar, och det blir större och större belastning på sjukvården, och vi måste alla hjälpas åt för att lasta av trycket. Och där tror vi att den här mobilitetsdelen som vi har hållit på med tar en viktig del. Och sen om det är att utveckla ambulanstjänster, eller om det är mobila röntgenteam, eller om det är cancerbehandling som man gör mobilt. Vi måste flytta ut vården också närmare patienterna. Och det tycker vi självklart då är superspännande. Och för att man ska kunna göra det så måste man ju också ha tid för innovation. Och innovation, det är ju kanske inte i det som man prioriterar 1 och 2, utan man har sin daily operation, och man maximerar och man jobbar med att få in så mycket och få ut så mycket i effekt beroende på vad man håller på med. Men därför så känns det extra roligt idag att som ett resultat av att vi satsar på innovation, vi vill utvecklas. Vi har varit med länge och ser att det här behöver att förändras, det vi håller på med. så är jag jätteglad att få välkomna upp Nikolaj som är ansvarig för den här delen på Falck globalt. För det här är, som Kristina sa, inte framtiden utan den är här och nu. Däremot så kommer utvecklingen att gå dramatiskt uppåt och jag tror vi alla kommer att vara förvånade om 5 år när det kanske, oj titta där flyger förbi en drönare med ett par personer som sitter i, de är nog på väg till jobbet. Det går så himla fort. Så att Nikolaj, hjärtligt välkommen upp och berätta lite mer om oss om hela drönarvärlden, möjligheter och lite grann vad som händer här och nu. Tack.
Godt, og endnu en gang tak for invitationen, Frederik, og også interessant at høre perspektivet fra den danske udenrigstjeneste, når vi nu er her i Stockholm. Jeg har været i Stockholm siden mandag aften, og mit svenske er ikke blevet mærkbart bedre, så jeg vil prøve at gøre det på engelsk i stedet for, hvis det er ok. My name is Nikolaj Laugesen. I'm, as Frederik mentioned, head of business development in Falck. And if we take a look at Falck just around the world, we are not only in Sweden, but also present in the US, driving ambulances. We have healthcare solutions in South America. Then we have a number of firefighting contracts in Europe and in Australia. And finally, we also have healthcare here in the Nordic countries, as well as ambulance operations in Sweden, Denmark, Germany, Spain. And yes, Frederik, technology development is going really fast, and we as a company, we also need to innovate for several reasons. First of all, because of some of the fundamental changes that will hit the healthcare sector, not only now, we are in the midst of lack of resources in healthcare. We are in the midst of an aging population, more patients with chronic diseases. All this is stressing the healthcare sector. But we also know that Falck, we are developing this, but we also have competitors around the world. We have startups that are going really fast in some of the areas that we are working on. When we talk about digitalization, it's a new way of thinking about healthcare. Are Falck better at doing this, or do we have competitors coming in from the US or from Europe? We actually know that, and that's why this is also some of the things that we are working on. So of course we need to develop and innovate as every other company in Sweden and in the world. Just a quick glimpse of what we are working on. Artificial intelligence in emergency. This is something that has been tested in Copenhagen, in the capital region. And the results, scientific proven, shows that artificial intelligence is actually better at identifying cardiac arrest comparing to what is recognized by medical dispatchers. Artificial intelligence is scanning the conversations with the dispatchers on words and on breathing, etc. And this is something that is already implemented now in Copenhagen, and we are now testing whether this can be implemented with our paramedics as well in the ambulances. Moreover, when it comes to digitalizations, maybe it seems a little bit odd, but if you are sick, it's actually sometimes a good idea avoid getting to the hospital. It turns out that more people actually get sick when they get to the hospital. Of course, we can also treat people. But the more patients we have with a chronic disease, the more stress will be put on our healthcare system. And that's why we need to think differently about this and how we can have more patients at home, being monitored on their COPD or their heart conditions or diabetes, for example. And this is also something that we are testing right now in Denmark, together with large companies like Philips and Siemens. And finally, yes, Frederik, we will see a flying bus with 12 people coming in soon. I will get back to that picture, but already now the drones are flying, and you will be able to see this after this presentation when we go out to this little field out here. But the reason for bringing drones in this healthcare system is from logistical reasons. What happens if we need to transport something fast? What happens if we have remote locations and it's difficult to access? For instance, in Greenland or in Denmark, even though Denmark is a smaller country, it can be necessary to transport, for example, diagnostic samples really fast. We either do that today by helicopter, which is really, really expensive, but we can also do it by drone, which costs a fraction of transporting samples by helicopter. Okay, so that is just the overview, and let's dive into some of the usabilities of drones. This is something that is being done already today. So this is, you could call it, this is not rocket science. This is not science fiction. For now, we use drones to get a better overview for fire. As you can see with a thermal camera, the firefighters, they can easily identify where are the most critical positions in an industrial fire, for example. Last summer, we tested drones with artificial intelligence also in order to prevent wildfires. We know that due to the changing climate, wildfires are increasing by numbers every year. And we are actually able to prevent some of those fires, not all of them. But this is, again, one of the ways that we can use drones in emergency. And then finally, we see it almost in the news every day that elderly people with dementia has gone lost in the woods or wherever it might be, and we can't find them. We can track them by dogs. It's a very, very difficult and time-consuming way to do that. We have tested this together with the police in Denmark, and of course, we can identify people with thermal camera much faster than that. And as you can see in the last bullet, time is critical. If you have an elderly person lost with dementia in November in Denmark or in Sweden, then time is critical. And then just moving on to the next slide, I took some of those pictures myself the other day. There's a fire that has been going on for almost 3 weeks now in a power plant just outside Aarhus. You can see the drones is providing live streaming to the firefighters both day and night, and those video streaming will also be used for evaluating afterwards. This is something that is being requested by insurance increasingly to know what could have been done differently, but it also just a more efficient way of doing firefighting. We do work with a lot of stuff, and I'll just go to see, this is not something that has been implemented yet, but this is something that we are in conversations with our Danish traffic authorities. Can we use the drones for having a better overview of traffic accidents in order to avoid congestions at highways? As you can see the pictures up here, to the left, you see the accident, you see all the ambulances, you can see fire trucks, and then just behind it, that is the congestion. So if we can bring the drone out, we can easily get the road authorities live streaming of what's happening, or we could just give them an overview of what is the best way of handling this. We have also seen increasingly that we can use the drones. Exactly this drone that you see on the picture in the bottom is the one that will be flying here in Stockholm in the world premiere in Sweden. Right? Yeah. But this drone can also be used for sniffing in ports from larger ships. It can be used for detecting oil spills in harbors, but also in some of the more vulnerable environments. Again, Greenland is a good example of where oil spill is really, really critical. Okay, and then to the case from Ærø and Svendborg in the southern part of Denmark. What we've been doing there is to fly blood samples between two hospitals. One is located in an island called Ærø. It's a really, really nice place. So a little marketing for this small island if you go on holiday in Denmark sometime. But it takes to transport a blood sample from this small island to the larger university hospital in Odense. In average, it takes between 8 to 10 hours. We can do this with a drone in 45 minutes. The reason for it takes 8 to 10 hours because we have to wait for the ferry, we have to wait for the drone, the sample to be picked up and then transported again by another person, etc. So it's a really long supply chain, you can say. And why don't we do that much faster? Because in these 8 to 10 hours, we either have the patient hospitalized, which by cost is about 8,000 kroner a day, or we can just leave the patient at home and transport the diagnostic sample or the blood sample. And that's exactly what we're doing right now. So this is a way of avoiding unnecessary transportation of patients, or either giving them a quicker diagnosis. And that, I mean, this can be done also. Ærø-Svendborg is about 60 kilometers, but when we talk about, or when we see the live drone, you can also ask questions about range and speed, weather conditions, etc. When you work with innovation, sometimes you pick some of the small fights, and sometimes you say, okay, now we're going to pick a bigger fight, or if we can say it that way. So we say, why don't we try to do this in some of the most tough conditions on the planet, in Greenland? Not only out of the Arctic conditions, this has been a challenge. It's also a challenge due to connectivity. You don't have a 4G network nearby. You need to switch between SATCOM, radio frequencies, and LTE. We actually made that happen. Furthermore, in order to have this demonstrated, we needed to place people out really, really far away from the capital Nuuk and ship them there by boat for a couple of hours and then fly the drone out to these guys. But it worked out very fine. We had a BVLOS flight, and let us just break that down. But BVLOS means beyond visible line of sight. It means that suddenly for almost 3 hours, we couldn't see the drone. We could see the live footage from the drone, as you can see up here. But and we could also see the signal on the screen, and we were in close contact with the airport. But we had a distance of about 285 kilometers for this flight, which is a really, really long flight. And this drone has a range in total of about 500 kilometers and flies in what is called 23 meters per second, which is that's the level just before stormy conditions. And it's tested down to -20. And this is one of the reasons why, again, in Greenland, we have some of the poorest infrastructure in the world, because you cannot drive from city to city. You either go by plane or by helicopter or by boat. I lived in Greenland for 6 years, so I know. Furthermore, this drone can be used for search and rescue, just as you saw the smaller drones, but this drone will be able to detect a vessel from about 15 sea miles. That's about 25-30 kilometers. And we'll be able to identify, not only could see it, but also identify it coming up close from about 10 miles ahead. This is really useful if you have hunters getting lost, or increasingly you also have tourists getting lost in Greenland. And I guess the coming years you will have even more tourists getting lost up there. So we are testing this together with the Joint Arctic Command in Greenland and the healthcare authorities. Good. And now to the science fiction. We had a vision. In fact, we discussed this with our CEO, Jacob Ries, a couple of years back, and he asked, Nikolaj, can we do this? Well, yes, we can, to quote someone famous. But we looked at the time horizons. We were in close dialogue with some of the largest universities in the US, with investors in the US. And we were also in close contact with the European aviation authorities, and their timeline is also called 2025, when we have the first manned drones airborne. They're already flying now. ADAC, the German roadside assistance company, they have a drone flying and got the first permissions to do that this year. So that's 2022. So the future is only, you can say, 3 years ahead, or it's actually already here. We have drones with persons flying in Singapore and in China and a couple of other countries. So it's coming, and it's really, really close. And one of the reasons why we want to do this is when we look at the data and we analyze our data from the ambulances to what is the drone capable of in the same response time. Then we analyze this on real data from 36,000 ambulance responses. We broke it down to these various distances. And when we are looking, then we look at specific GPS data. Say, okay, what time did it take to go from A to B by ambulance, and how long would it take for the drone to do the same distance? As you can see up here, for a 10-kilometer trip, the ambulance go by average 8.7, whereas the drone could do the same distance in 5.45. And of course, the longer the distance, the more time can be saved, and this is critical. Of course, if you're having a heart attack, then even the 9 minutes cannot save you. But for severe bleedings or from allergic reactions or a lot of other incidents, this is time critical, and this is where the drone can make a difference. Of course, this is depending on a number of factors. How fast can you get in the air? How much equipment can you have in a drone? Can you take the person back to the hospital, etc.? So this is all based on what we would call the first responder. Having the paramedic going really, really fast to that critical incident, treating the patient, and then having the ambulance going back with the patient. But as technology is developing, we are not that far away from also seeing technology that will be capable of bringing the patient back. And that suddenly, again, changes the picture of what is it actually we are able to do. And to quote the ambassador, it's interesting to see that Falck suddenly has wings, not only in its logo, but also in our services. I think that would be the final words, but there's always a but. There are some things that we need to take into consideration. When we did this in the southern part of Denmark, we were the first in Europe to get permissions to fly in non-segregated airspace. We were in close contact with the airports. We tested this together with the Norsk Luftambulance on how that would work with the HEMS, helicopter emergency. We also tested this in a corridor, and this is what when you see this in the news and people are saying that they have been flying from A to B, 90% of what you see is in these corridor flights. And if we want to do, you can say, the more advanced drone flights, then we need to get out of those corridors, and that is what everybody's working on in Europe, and that's why the flight that we conducted between Ærø and Svendborg was quite a milestone. A couple of things missing still before this is scalable and before you can have your pizzas delivered. We need to be sure that we can detect all airspace users. Small private planes, they're not always detectable on the radar. They can turn on the ADS-B or not. And now the European aviation authorities, they are trying to create a European use space. So, which means that not only are we allowed to fly between two hospitals, but we'll also be able to fly to critical incidents outside our flight route, so to speak. But this is coming. I think the forecast is 2023. And then, of course, a couple of questions for urban environments, which also is one of the things that we're working on, getting enough risk mitigation in the drone in order to handle that kind of flights as well. With these words, in a few seconds, then I will, like Batman, change into another suit and be ready for the world premiere of drone flying. And you are more than welcome to ask questions now. Otherwise, you're also welcome to ask questions when we get to see the drone in half an hour or so.
Yeah, maximum.
Yeah. All right, any questions now?
Passa på att ställa frågor. Det finns en mick här, men som sagt, det går ju bra att göra det ute på flygfältet också. Jag har en fråga här borta.
Ja.
Jeg har et fråga. Hvordan gør patienten, som står i sit hus, når der kommer en drone til hans hus og til hans trædgård, og han skal aflevere en blood sample, for eksempel.
Ja.
Kan en pensionist, som skal have en test leveret eller sendt afsted, har han kompetencer til at anvende en drone?
Nej, bestemt ikke. Og sådan fungerer det faktisk heller ikke i dag. Vi har heller ikke pensionister, der sidder og tager deres egne blodprøver. Det vil altid være en sygeplejerske eller lignende. Og her, det vi har gjort her, det er at flyve mellem 2 hospitaler. Det man kan se for sig, det er, at man Oh, sorry. I lost that one. Sorry. Yeah. I thought you guys were practicing a little bit of Danish as well. All right. Sorry for that. No. So the question goes whether we would be able to have a service that includes a blood sample from an elderly patient. And the answer is that right now, as you all know, it's not that simple to take a blood sample yourself. You would have someone professional to do it, and that's why you would normally go to the hospital or to your doctor to have it done, and then you can fly the drone from there.
So there will be professionals
Yes.
handling the drone
Yes.
at the house?
Yeah. But we don't really need the professionals to handling the drone because we can, and we did that already last year. We were flying a drone in Germany, sitting with our coffee in Denmark. So that can be done already now. So if we want to, when we were flying Aero Svendborg, we were also sitting in Aarhus and just pushing the button on the drone, and it's the route is just, you can say, programmed by waypoints. So there's not much human interaction in the drone. Of course, if something happens, if suddenly the helicopter comes, then we need to take over the control, and then we'll just land it, or we'll just fly another route. And if something really goes bad, we'll just smoothly land it. So right now, the idea is that we will save as much personnel as possible. So why are we using personnel in the healthcare sector to have blood samples transported from A to B? I mean, that's a waste of good competencies. Instead, that can be automated. Again, you would have a pilot in that loop, but it will save personnel in the healthcare sector.
And you need a professional at each end.
Yes, but that's no matter what, we don't have the. Sorry. Oh, so the question is, yes, can we do this with? Can we do blood sampling without a healthcare professional? And the answer is no, we cannot do that. Maybe Siemens downstairs will tell us otherwise, but you're welcome to go and visit them on some of their equipment.
Do you develop your own drone technology, or do you work with other company?
We work with drone companies. I think we are quite humble in saying that we are a really good healthcare company, but we are not a technology company developing drones. So some of the drones that you see, the one top left is from Holland or Netherlands. This is from Ireland. And just the size of this is about 2.5 meters. The size of this is about 5 meters. And then we have another drone up here, the one down here, that is from Germany. And when we are looking at what kind of technology is useful, we look at, of course, the cost side of it, but also what are their development plans, because those development plans are super, super important for these issues. Here it is, for how we can get permissions from the European authorities. It's getting a little bit technical now. Please stop me if it's too technical. But all drone manufacturers or technology companies, they are working from design verifications or design certifications that goes into specific operations levels. So every time they have a new design certification, then you're able to do an even more complex flight or advanced flight. And that's what we're looking into when we talk to these drone companies, because we would like to get to that level where we can get out of that corridor and we can deliver the blood directly at the hospital.
Yeah, of course. And what price tags are we talking about in these cases for the drones?
Sorry?
What are the price tags for those kind of drones? We're talking in the...
Yes. So this one goes, it's a little bit more than 500,000 kroner. This one is
a bit more expensive.
This is a little bit more.
Yeah.
It's about €1 million.
Yeah.
And then we have some of the. This is just a mock-up. But when we talk to some of these manufacturers that are experts in manned drones, it's actually cheap. It's about you can get a vessel for 10 million kroner. And then the service and maintenance is much cheaper than a helicopter.
Yeah, of course, since it's all electrical and so
Yeah,
forth.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so I was interested in the, you said here that the drone has a range of 500 kilometers. Maybe not all drones, but was it that one particular, or it's all drones, just that one?
This one is about 500. This is a hybrid drone, meaning that it goes up with batteries and forward with fuel.
Okay.
And that's why it has a longer range.
Okay, so my next question was, I'm from the Traffic Management Central here in Stockholm, and we're looking at how we could use drones for traffic management, of course. And have you tested how the range would be for real-time streaming? How far is that, and how would that be incorporated? So for us, it's interesting to see like here and now, not lagging after a couple of seconds.
There's a little bit of delay, 0.5 seconds, I think, something like that.
Like for how long?
It doesn't matter.
The range.
Yeah,
the range doesn't matter.
Yeah, no. So the important is not whether it's 10 or 8 or 20 kilometers away. The important is the connectivity. And when we go to the 5G network, that will be even faster.
Okay, thank you.
Då tycker jag vi tackar Nikolaj med en applåd. Då låter vi Nikolaj gå och byta om till Batman eller Stålmannen-kostymen. Och en flygande dansk ska vi få se så småningom. Det blir väldigt trevligt. Men vi avslutar här.